Shalom, Esther Gidoyuat. It's Friday, February 11th. This is Africa 54.
Sanctions and aid withdrawals are beginning to hit military governments in Africa's Sahel region over coups and delayed elections. Teachers in Zimbabwe refuse to return to newly reopened schools as they demand better pay. And despite United Nations relief efforts, Malawi flood victims continue to appeal for more aid.
Sanctions and aid withdrawals over coups and delayed elections are beginning to hit military governments across Africa's Sahel region. But aid and rights groups say the region's 2.5 million displaced people are also poised to suffer. Henry Wilkins has more from Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso.
The Sahel region is home to 2.5 million people displaced by conflict. Now, citizens are feeling the fallout of recent military coups in Mali and Burkina Faso. ECOWAS, the West African political bloc, recently imposed sanctions on Mali after its military junta failed to hold democratic elections. Awa Zango is displaced in Burkina Faso.
At the market, we buy corn, rice, beans, and often condiments with what little means we have. If there is an increase in prices, it will be really difficult for us because we will no longer be able to pay anything. We will just stay at home, and we will just wait for people of goodwill to help us.
Zango has 10 children and fled a terrorist attack on her village approximately 2 years ago. ECOWAS decided last week not to implement sanctions in Burkina Faso, but it is putting pressure on the country's military junta to move towards democratic elections and could still impose sanctions if the junta does not comply. The UN says displaced people are disproportionately affected in countries under sanctions.
Due to the impact of sanctions, they face serious impediments in delivery of humanitarian aid. So even if they are dealing, for example, with food or medical goods only, they cannot do bank transfers. Donors may be scared to provide donations, which will be used to provide humanitarian aid to the countries under sanctions.
Meanwhile, the US has paused $450 million in development aid funding for Burkina Faso as a result of the military junta taking power. The money was earmarked for the United States Millennium Challenge Corporation, with aims to help improve access to electricity in Burkina Faso. Naba Tougré is community leader of a village which relies on solar power because it is not connected to the national grid.
The people from the National Electricity Company tell us all the time that they will bring electricity, but these are just big promises. The refrigerators don't work, and this spoils the food. And to avoid this, we have to take the food to keep it in the refrigerators.
Analysts say lack of development is one of the main causes of the Sahel's decade-long conflict with armed groups linked to Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, extremist groups that are exploiting and recruiting from communities disillusioned with the state. While some analysts say development aid is essential to ending conflict in the Sahel region, others say it should be the responsibility of regional governments.
They are, of course, an important contribution, but what I think they can't make up is an effective state. So they are replacing an effective state for now, a state that is capable to provide basic services to its citizens.
As for Zango, she is just anxious whether she can go on feeding her family. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Malu, Burkina Faso.
The World Health Organization's chief scientist Soumya Swaminathan says the world is not yet at the end of the COVID-19 pandemic and there will be more coronavirus variants. She was speaking on Friday to reporters in South Africa, where she visited vaccine manufacturing facilities with WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus.
We have seen the virus evolve, mutate, and in fact the Omicron variant was detected here in South Africa. The whole world came to know about it because of the scientists here. So we know that there will be more variants of concern, and so we're not at the end of the pandemic.
South Africa alerted the world to the Omicron variant in November, triggering an alarm that it could cause another surge in global infections and leading to travel restrictions on southern Africa. Schools in Zimbabwe were scheduled to resume this week after the long closure caused by COVID-19. But teachers are refusing to return to the classroom, citing a need for better pay. Columbus Mavunga has the details from Harare.
Students in Zimbabwe are still unable to attend classes, even though that schools closed during the COVID-19 pandemic were due to reopen on February 7. That's because teachers are refusing to go back to work. The teachers currently earn less than $100 a month and want better pay. Meanwhile, students are reading on their own or heading back home, like this 16-year-old student.
My appeal is for a salary increment for teachers so that they come to work because we aren't learning. It's like we are paying fees for nothing. It's so painful as my parents are struggling for it when I am not learning at all.
The pay dispute goes back to October 2018 when the government stopped paying teachers in US dollars, switching to the reintroduced Zimbabwean dollar. The new currency has steadily lost value, effectively reducing the teachers' wages. Obed Masaraure, the president of the Amalgamated Raw Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, says the instructors want their old salary restored and says the offer of a 20% raise amounts to almost nothing.
We asked for the restoration of the value of our salaries, which were robbed from us by the government of the day. And the message is clear to the government that we need our pre-October 2018 salaries of USD 540. We know these shenanigans of adding an extra dollar to our salaries, that doesn't add up.
Government officials see the ongoing talks in a different light and are optimistic of a successful resolution.
In many ways, we already have a breakthrough. The leaders of the workers have, to a very large extent, welcomed this package, and they are only saying, let's discuss how it's going to be implemented.
The teachers and the government are expected to meet over the weekend to resume negotiations. Meanwhile, students wait to resume their studies months after the pandemic forced their schools to close. Columbus Mavunga for VOA News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Now to Madagascar, where the State Disaster Relief Agency says the death toll from Cyclone Batsirai has jumped to 111 on Friday from 92 reported earlier this week. The devastating cyclone hit the Indian Ocean island late last Saturday, slamming the southeastern coastline before receding late Sunday. 87 deaths occurred in one area, according to the Disaster Relief Agency, the Congo district in southeast Madagascar. The agency says it is still collecting details about what happened in Congo. Batsirai was Madagascar's second destructive storm in 2 weeks after Cyclone Anna killed 55 people and displaced 130,000 in a different area of the country farther north. Parts of Malawi are still recovering from January's tropical storm Anna, which left scores dead across Madagascar, Malawi, Mozambique and Zimbabwe. UN agencies in Malawi are providing help to people displaced into camps, but those affected say thousands more need shelter, food and clean water. Lamek Masina reports from Nsanje, Malawi.
Hannah Gift left her home to the Bangula evacuation camp in late January after floods from tropical storm Anna washed away all her property and livestock. But the single mother of four says the situation in the camp is awful.
Life here is very unbearable. Since I came here, food has been a problem. We're only given 1 cup of maize flour per family. Sometimes we go to sleep without food.
Flood victim Serenia Gazrina says there is no way to earn money.
We even have nowhere to do some piecework to get money to buy our own food. All the gardens here have been washed away, so no one can offer us work to do in their gardens.
Gazrina and Gift are among nearly 1 million Malawians affected by floods in more than half of the country's 28 districts. 33 people were killed. UN agencies in Malawi and donors have started providing aid to victims, but additional funds are needed to assist victims.
As UNICEF, we had mobilized around $500,000, so $500,000 already pre-positioned and procured supplies, because obviously we had planned for disasters, so we were able to utilize that. Of course, we are mobilizing additional funds from existing resources, but we're also trying to raise funds with the donors now, highlighting the importance of bringing help to the families in need here in Malawi.
Malawi lost a third of its electricity when the storm damaged a hydropower station. Environmental experts blame climate change, deforestation, and soil degradation for worsening the floods.
Now that there's been so much of the forest cover has been taken away, the only solution really is to go and rehabilitate those hillsides. So we call it watershed management, and there are very, very clear techniques to make sure that the damage that happens when you've got very heavy rainfall is reduced. You dig trenches, you plant trees, you terrace the land, you use the right crops at the right time.
Meanwhile, Malawi's weather experts warn more flooding is possible in the northern and central parts of the country as heavy rain is expected over the weekend. Lamek Masina for VOA News, Nsanje, Malawi.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has announced that 150 billion euros will be invested in Africa as part of a plan aimed at boosting global recovery as an alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Edward Barron reports. All right, we'll go to break, and when we come back, you're watching Africa 54. As always, we're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, we have a special sweet way to send you off to Valentine's weekend. So stay tuned. Good news for the continent. European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced that 150 billion euros will be invested in Africa as part of a plan aimed at boosting global recovery as an alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Edward Barron explains.
The European Commission has earmarked over 150 billion euros for Africa, its president announced on Thursday.
De 150 milliards d'euros.
Speaking in Senegal, Ursula von der Leyen said the investments were being made under the Global Gateway strategy, a scheme launched as an alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative.
Global Gateway
is about investing in infrastructure, in strategic infrastructure, in industry infrastructure, but also in health, youth, education.
Africa's allocation accounts for more than half of the 300 billion euro fund, which was launched in December. Global Gateway aims to strengthen Europe's supply chains and fight climate change in sectors including health, energy and transport. It also comes as many European states are seeking to reduce illegal migration from Africa, which is driven in part by poverty and joblessness. Von der Leyen made the announcement alongside Senegal's President Macky Sall. He's the current chairman of the African Union, which will hold a summit with the European Union next week.
Edward Barron of Reuters filed that report. Sudan is denouncing Western criticism of the arrest of two high-profile former officials opposed to military rule and charged with corruption, saying it was contrary to diplomatic norms and practices. Khalid Omar Youssef and Wagdi Sali were arrested Wednesday in a move Norway, the United States, Britain, the European Union, Canada and Switzerland are condemning as harassment and intimidation by Sudanese military authorities. Both men had been part of the government that was toppled on October 25th and had been detained. Since then, the military leaders have repeatedly warned of foreign interference. Both men were involved in a task force that seized assets from members of ousted President Omar al-Bashir's regime that has come under criticism from the military. In northern Sudan, barricades on a main trade route to Egypt have left hundreds of truck drivers stranded, highlighting the vulnerability of Sudan's struggling economy and political turmoil. David Doyle has more.
Hundreds of trucks have ground to a halt in northern Sudan after protesters blockaded a main export route into Egypt. Further south, the capital Khartoum has seen months of protests against an October coup. But as protester Rashid Abu Zaid explains, opposition to the military has reverberated to the border.
These are the fruits of our country passing through this road. This is why the Sudanese people must unite and hold a position so we can achieve the demands of this state and the Sudanese protesters who are dying in Khartoum.
The protest began last month after economically struggling Sudan sharply raised electricity prices for farmers. And that's not the only grievance. For example, traders complain about the dominance of Egyptian truckers in the country and of internal restrictions they say hamper livestock exports, particularly around camels, which can be a lucrative business. Barricades of the so-called Northern Artery were then expanded by Sudan's resistance committees that have rallied protesters nationwide since the October 25th coup. By late January, some 1,500 Egyptian truckers were stuck, according to data from a trucking union. This Egyptian driver says some have been at the border for more than 3 weeks.
We don't have any issues with them. Their problem is with their government, not with us.
Sudan's military-led Sovereign Council has promised to address the electricity price rise without noting other issues. And the protests show no sign of waning. They also follow weeks of demonstrations that stopped shipping at Port Sudan, the country's main trade hub, late last year. Another example of how Sudan's fragile economy is vulnerable to its political turmoil.
That was David Doe of Reuters reporting. A leading Pan-African communications consultancy and press release distribution service is planning to launch a free news distribution service. The new operation, called Radio News Release, is being launched ahead of Sunday's World Radio Day. Its creation follows a recent partnership between APO and other partners, including the African Union of Broadcasting. For more insight on the launch of the Radio New Release and its anticipated impact, VOA's Peter Clotty spoke with the chairman of the APO group, Nicolas Pompinier-Muñoz, via Skype in Lisbon, Portugal.
Well, if you think about the fact that in some part of the continent, again, radio is the only way to stay informed. And if you think about, for instance, COVID, I mean, there was a study made by an announcement, made by the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics, which released a report stating that 82% of Kenyans received the majority of their information about COVID from radio stations. So, I mean, when it's come to the development of the continent, when it's come to education, when it's come to making sure people are getting informed, the message, our message on Radio World Day is to remind the PR community, but also governments and everyone which is making announcement and communicating toward the population that radios, again, in that situation, in that the time of the internet and digital world, radio remain an untapped way, a very efficient way to reach the entire African community.
Radio consumes a specific type of content format, sound bites, audio files. How is APO Group positioned to provide access to authentic radio content to the millions and millions of broadcasters on the continent?
Well, it is the announcement we are making today. Today, APO Group is launching a new services which is called Radio News Release, and that service is intended to radios in Africa. As you may know, APO Group is distributing content for free to the African media and to all the media reporting on Africa. We are providing content for close to 15 years now. APO is going to celebrate their 15th anniversary in October. And so we are providing text, image, video, and sometimes sound bites to the entire media landscape. But now we are creating a specific service dedicated to radio news release, which will guarantee that radios in Africa and reporting on Africa will have free access to audio files, sound bites containing quotes from prominent business figures, update from African government and public institutions, but also sport, because as you may know, APO Group is a Pan-African public relation agency of FIFA, the NBA, the Basketball Africa League, the French Football Club, Olympique de Marseille, and more. And so we're going to bring audio files, which is the exact format the radio needs to do their work for free. We're going to provide that for free to, again, African radios and radios and radio reporting on the African continent. And everything will be free.
Nicola, when I told some friends that I'll be speaking with you, the unanimous question was, why this radio news release and why now? What's your response to that?
Well, I think it's about time to again remind everyone that website is fine and TV is fine and social media is fine. But again, in Africa, if you want to reach the entire population, you cannot disregard radios. And now our job as a leading Pan-African communication consultancy and press distribution service is to look at the media landscape, the different type of media within that media landscape, and to provide each media type with the format of content they need to do their work. So to newspapers, we're going to send text and images. To websites, we're going to send text, images, but also maybe video. To TV station, we're going to send video, but a specific type of video. We're going to send them B-roll. And to radios, well, then we send audio files, we send sound bites. So it's the very first time we're going to, discuss with radios and tell them, listen, we know you're there, we know you are here, we know exactly what you need as a content, and we want to support you by providing you free content coming from all corners of Africa, all sorts of industries, including sport, because that's what APO is doing for, again, 15 years. I mean, let's not forget APO is an acronym, and it stands for African Press Organization.
That was VOA's Peter Claude speaking with Nicolas Pampinier-Munya, the chairman of the APO Group. And now for a sweet way to send everyone into the weekend. Heather Maxwell, host of VOA's Music Time in Africa radio show, brings us this special Valentine's Day Top 3.
It's a time for you to extend a hand of friendship. So I want to say happy Valentine to you, and I want to urge you all to reach out to those who are in need this time. I also want to say happy Valentine to my wife, and a special dedication to her is a song titled Ojuju.
Hi, my name is Patricia Owusu from Ghana, West Africa. I want to wish my family happy Valentine, especially my daughter Vanessa Owusu and my mom Agnes Owusu, and all my family members and my loved ones.
Hello everyone, we are kids in Freetown, Sierra Leone.
We love you, Dr. Edda Maxwell. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm afraid of falling in love again.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Dr. Maxwell. Thank you so much for this. My name is Gasha. I'm a singer-songwriter, performing artist from Cameroon. Happy Valentine's to all of you watching right now. Watch my latest single, Jupu. To everyone I love, to everyone who loves me, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful season. Mwah. Yeah, Jupu, 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 mon sugar. Yeah, Jupu, Jupu, c'est toi que j'aimerais.
Hello everybody, I am Charles Davis from Freetown, Sierra Leone. I want to use this special time to wish everybody across the world, especially the beautiful ladies, a happy Valentine. And to you, my special one and only Marion Clarkson, all the way in China, I want to wish you a special Valentine Day coming from me and to you.
Because of you, I'll be acting so lazy. Don't let me go. I lost my mind, claiming I'm busy. Hello everyone, we are students here in Freetown, Sierra Leone. We love you and happy Valentine's Day to you.
Happy Valentine's Day. I'm Heather Maxwell. See you next time.
Don't let me go. I lost my mind, claiming I'm busy.
Heather, thank you so much for that. And that wraps up our show this Friday. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend and enjoy the Valentine's Day.